What's up, guys? TheDevildogGamer here, and today we are going to be talking about 6 days in Fallujah. I thought this game was dead and gone, but here it is. It's coming back, and it's coming back fast and very hot. And I'm excited for it. You guys are excited for it. We're going to talk about some of the details with it from my perspective, because if you guys didn't know, I'm a Marine. I was not a Fallujah Marine. I was a Ramadier Marine, but all my NCOs were Fallujah Marines. I was an 0311, so I was a door kicker, basically. So I learned a lot from these guys that were here doing this stuff, a lot of training, heard a lot of stories, first-person accounts that you don't see on news and, things like that. It's always the stories that you hear from the person there, not the things that you read on or see on the news. But before we get started, I do have to address, because every video I've seen, every news article is talking about white phosphorus, war crimes. White phosphorus is not a chemical weapon, nor is it banned in any way, shape, or form. It is an incendiary smoke round. I personally used M34 white phosphorus Willie Pete grenades to smoke out roads and intersections like that. When people have been hit, if you need to absolutely quickly, smoke something and cover it to obscure it so somebody can be grabbed or something can be moved, white phosphorus is where it's at, because it is a bursting munition. Tanks, the little smoke grenades that they pop out and boom, 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 and it's all smoked out. That used to be white phosphorus. Not anymore, but it used to be. It's a quick billowing smoke. That's why it's used in artillery shells to completely smoke screen an area out to cover large movements and things like that. Can it hurt you? Yes, it does. It's an incendiary smoke. It can burn you. Is it used to target people? No, nobody. That's what HE rounds are for. Have people been burned by it? Absolutely. I mean, people have been injured by training rounds. So yeah, anything will hurt you, especially in a combat zone. But the nonsense of it being used to target specifically target civilians and some sort of mass war crime is just unfound and BS. And we're gonna get comments on it, but to be honest, it's ridiculous. I know a lot of you already know this, but the Second Battle of Fallujah was the largest urban battle since Way City in 1968, and still has yet to be topped. This was a battle for every street corner, for every window, every door, every living room, every alley. The entire city was surrounded because this was the headquarters of HQI. It was the stronghold. It was surrounded. Leaflets were dropped along for a while. Every civilian was told to leave. Of course, not a lot of civilians did, because they didn't want to leave their house. And the Marines and soldiers went in street by street and took it. Had to check each and every single house. This game is going to recreate. Now, one of the cool things that they're doing is they're doing procedural environments, like a procedural architecture. And what that means is each and every single street and stuff is procedurally generated. If you go in a single player, you clear through buildings and stuff like that, and you die, when you come back to that same street, it's going to be completely different. All the buildings, all the interiors, and everything. This takes a lot of the already knowing out of the equation. Because when you're clearing a room, there is no knowing, or when you're clearing a building, you don't know what it's going to look like on the inside until the door opens and you're in. And then you're seeing exactly what it looks like, and you have to find out what the rest of the house looks like by going deeper and deeper into it. This is a very cool aspect. Now, one of the concerns I had was there are a lot of very significant features in this city, including one like the graveyard, where it's a very famous area. Now, I was kind of worried that since everything's going to be procedural, maybe there won't be the specific landmarks, but they are called. They're going to be called signature buildings, signature environments. So those very important areas are going to be there, but everything around it is going to be procedurally generated. This takes a lot of it adds to the chaos of room clearing and going through in these mount operations, because you didn't know what to expect, and you didn't know what each street was going to offer, the layout, the architecture, and it just adds to more of the anxiety of it, which you should be able to experience, and I want you to experience, because it was very chaotic, and any room clearing is chaotic, and it just adds to it. One of the cool things they're working with is the AI. Now, you've seen a lot of games you play where you go into a building and you shoot one in a room and the AIs just come pouring through the other door and stuff like that. They're working on making sure this doesn't happen. that if you clear a building and you drop one guy, maybe the AI retreats upstairs into a bunker, because a lot of these buildings, they gave AQI a very long time to set up and fortify this entire area. So each house had a bunker. I mean, almost every house had a bunker. They would grab Jersey barriers, bring them inside, metal, anything they could find, and build machine gun nests inside, murder holes, or they'd pop a little hole in a wall and shoot through there. Spider holes are going to be into where they dug under rugs, and then they'd pop up a little bit, throw a grenade out of the rug, things like that, and even booby trap a ton of houses. This is all going to be in there. You're going to go into a house, and you might go into 5 houses that are going to be, oh, there's nothing in here. Maybe I saw a few civilians. We checked them, and then, escorted them back out into the street, to get them out of the city. And then you go into the next one, and there's a machine gun nest down the hall. Somebody's shooting through a little mouse hole, murder hole on the left. Somebody just set off a booby trap at the front door. You got guys down, and that's how it was. And that's you have to do this and experience this for each and every single house, all the way through the city. That's what these Marines and soldiers did, and this is what you're going to get to experience. Now, the cool thing about the AI, though, is they're going to make it, they're going to spread out through the house and do their thing. Or, guess what? They talk to each other. The entire map, all the AI interact with each other, and they can move through the entire map. They can move across the entire game world. So they can coordinate activities with each other and develop sophisticated tactics, which they're going to talk about. And I'm kind of hoping that what they'll do is complex ambushes and things like that. Maybe a retreating ambush where if you guys retreat around a corner, you go follow them, and guess what? Now you're on an L-shaped ambush, and you're in a lot of trouble all of a sudden stuck in this alley. This is what I'm really hoping to see, and a lot of games kind of have this stupid AI, but with the procedural architect and now this AI system, it's looking like I'm going to be popping a bunch of Xanax while I'm playing this game. Another awesome feature that I'm really excited about is the Go command. Now, this is going to be a one-button command. And before I kind of get in the details of it, I want to kind of draw a comparison. Like SWAT 4. SWAT 4, if you've seen my series on it, if I'm not using the voice commands, you walk up to a door and you tell the guys what you want to do. Like, oh, let me scroll through this menu. Oh, you want breach bang clear. Okay, and execute. That's kind of takes the flow and the feel out of it, because it shouldn't be that slow. The thing about you're playing a Marine, you're going to play a Marine soldier. Everybody knows what they are supposed to be doing. Everybody's trained. So immediately upon contact, everyone returns fire to suppress. So you don't need a command to tell you that. This is what the Go code's going to do. The Go command is going to let players aim, push a button, and the game figures out what the AI teammates are supposed to do based on what you're pointing at. So you point at a door, boom, they're going to stack up at the door. You point at the enemy contact, boom, they're going to suppress. You point at the alley, they're going to move into the alley to flank and things like that. This is going to, so you'll be able to quick on the go fire and maneuver with your team, because in mount operations, it is all team-based. You do not clear room by yourself. I know people have done it. Like, I know people cleared buildings by themselves, but nobody willingly does it, okay? You don't go and do a building by yourself. And there's not this hand signal garbage or, I'm going to tell you exactly what you do. It's kind of like a look and a tap, and you know what you do. And if repetition and the training takes over, and this is what the Go command is going to replicate, is that ability to kind of know and think, know what each other are thinking and stuff like that. And I'm excited for that, because it's going to make the game more fluid and less contextual menu and contextual base and stuff like that. And I'm kind of excited to see that in a single. But of course, this doesn't matter for the co-op multiplayer, but for the single player, it does matter. And this has me pretty excited to kind of see it in work, where you can just quickly be like, okay, suppress, we're flanking this way, and things like that. So this is actually a really cool feature, and I'm excited to see it being used. There are a few features that I saw and I liked, and that add to the realism of it. One of the things was the lighting. You would be outside all day. Some of these houses don't have lights, or they have one or two, and you go outside from the glaring light into a building. You're the first man in, and your eyes have yet to adjust, and everything's dark as shit. This is one of the things that they have that's happening. The change of lighting. You go inside, and it takes you a minute to adjust, or you open a door and you look outside, and everything's very bright, and you can't really pick stuff up like that. Super awesome detail that is a life and death detail. Like, this can actually get you killed, and it could cause you to mistake, things like that. Awesome detail. I'm really looking forward to that. And on top of that, the dust. Firing your weapon inside, or even grenade blasts, would just cover entire interiors, would just be dusted out, and you wouldn't be able to see. When I would fire the M82A1, sitting in the back of a room, I would have to take water and wet the walls. Every single wall, because if I fired that thing in a room, it would just be like somebody set off a smoke grenade in there. You couldn't see anything. And that's the part of the chaos of clearing a room. You go in, you have 3 guys firing, dust everywhere, you can't see, your eyes are still adjusting. It adds to the chaos of clearing into these rooms and seeing, and just that fear of like, how many guys are there? Is there only one guy? Is he still there? I can't see, I can't hear anything. The chaos of clearing these rooms is really going to be captured here, and I'm really excited to see it in action. And on top of that, a lot of the gameplay, you see iron sights. Now, people are gonna be like, "Oh, where's the ACOGs?" There weren't many units that everybody had ACOGs. The ACOG was just adopted not too long before, and they were still rolling them out. And majority of the guys had iron sights. There were some that had ACOGs. There's a hodgepodge of optics at that point in time. People had the old school Trichicon reflexes. There were some EOTechs floating around. I mean, if you look at like the 2000, the invasion of 2006, you see some crazy weapons. I mean, people were using PPSHs with EOTechs on top to clear rooms. Like, there was not a standard at that point. There was starting to be a standard. And that's what I like to see in the game, is that they're not giving you all this Gucci gear. I mean, there were PEC 2s back then. If you had a PEC 2, or if you even had night vision, like there wasn't, there wasn't like all this gear like there was, 2006, 7, 8, and so forth. It was still very much your basic loadout that you had, prior to or during the invasion. So I like to see them going that route and keeping with that realism and not being like, because a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, I want my sniper rifle and my scopes and well, they didn't really have all that stuff, but they did, but not in great orders and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see that. This game is definitely going to be a weird game for me to play, because it's not the city that I was in, but it's the same kind of dirt and the same kind of dirt that I chewed and things like that. And I'm excited for it because there are a lot of civilians, a lot of soldiers and Marines that consulted on this. They're definitely going to get it right. It's going to be a really awesome tactical game that shows you exactly what kind of chaos the Iraq War, and specifically the Second Battle of Fallujah, had. The insurgency in Iraq was very complex, and they were very crafty motherfuckers. Like, I'll hand it to them. They were cruel as hell and, stuff like that, but I will hand it to them. They took a little and they turned it into a lot, and they were able to come up with some really crazy shit. And almost every month you would learn some new thing would happen, and you'd have to get trained on how to overcome that. And they were just, like water bottle pressure switches, like all kinds of crazy stuff. You always thought you knew your enemy, and then they did something completely different, and you're like, wow, okay, this is how it's happening. This is the kind of chaos that this game is going to show you, and honestly, I'm probably going to need to return to therapy after this, and I'm, because they're really doing their best on this. So Victura is really going at it. I'm really excited to see this game in action. Any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.